can and should insurers become parts of the daily life of the customer? Well, we debated this at a great panel at the exec Insurtech in the beautiful city of Cologne. And we had Philip of Slice, we had Alexander of the Zurich Insurance, we had Mary von Insmo and Stefan of Neodigital. Let's learn more about the future role of the customer in the insurance industry. And let's have a look at the panel. So I listened to this. I'm scouting digital and tech trends around the world in order to bring it to you. And I've helped numerous companies to set up ecosystems of digital products and services and to increase their reach with attention hacking.
We have another influencer who is known in the insurance industry as a digital transformation and also very well known in the startup ecosystem, Robin Kira. So I'll just welcome Robin on stage.
Thank you very much. And I'm privileged to have a panel here with renowned panel from the incumbents, from startups, from enablers, disruptors. I'm really looking forward to that. But first of all, I wanted to be a little bit selfish because 1 year ago, actually, at the exec, I did my first horrible YouTube video with my phone, and 1 year later this channel has already over 320,000 views of you guys, so thank you very much for making this possible. Thank you for the exec team to give me a start on that. Thank you very much. So, but now guys, I welcome you to the panel. Come up here and give them a hand of applause, please. Yeah, and there are only 2 mics, and the one who has a better argument gets it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I was thinking we don't do like a traditional introduction because most of you guys are quite known. I was thinking about you share a little bit why should potential customers call you in your company and what are you actually selling? Do you want to start here? Yes. Ladies first.
Great. Hi, I'm Mary from Insmo, and customers should definitely call us when they want to do great business, fast business in insurance. And the end customer should call us if they want to manage all their insurance issues hassle-free.
Okay, I'll just continue, thank you very much. My name is Dean Voss from Digital Insurance. We're a German insurer, and customers, so B2B customers, should call us because we can offer a digital insurance workbench for them to create and put new products into market, and the end customer should call us because we have easy to manage, easy to apply for products for anything you have in your household.
Yeah, I'm Alexander from a more traditional insurance brand, Zurich. And our end customers, whether they are commercial or retail, they should call us if they want to feel safer, if they want to sleep better at night, because they are sure that they are protected from risks they would otherwise lose some sleep about.
Thank you, and I'm Philip with Slice, no last name, as rule number 1 or rule number 2 states. Insurers should call us if they want to launch new digital products related to emerging risks. And end customers don't need to call us because we can facilitate all interactions on digital channels. So they don't need to call, but they can interact with us using their mobile phones, their favorite tablet, and chats, and bots.
All right, thank you very much. We have also a lot of different backgrounds here on the panel. Alexander, you work for a Swiss company, the German subsidiary, but the Swiss company. You're from Estonia. Philip from Canada, who made all the way to here. And you are from Germany. I was wondering, in your different ecosystems, how are insurance products sold today? Because when I remember my time as a sales agent for a large blue German insurer, and it was all about points and numbers and actually just selling, and if the customer needs it, it was not so important. Did that change in your country? How insurance is sold today?
Yes, in Estonia, well, Estonia is definitely one very tricky market because the people don't want to insure anything unless it's mandatory. Or, for example, if I drop my phone and it's broken, then I'm starting to think about who could insure my broken phone now. So it's a very difficult market because the average that the person spends on insurance in a year is around 200 euros. Compared to Switzerland, for example, where it's 2,000 euros. So in Estonia and in the Eastern Europe region, it's definitely today more of a pushing job where you need to push the insurance and you need to create the understanding in the customer's mind that there is a risk out there, that there is a pain involved in that. But the other experience that we are having right now in Germany and Switzerland is quite the opposite, meaning that the customers are more educated, they want to insure to prevent any additional damages in the future, and they're just looking for convenient ways how to interact with insurance companies.
Yeah. Coming from the German market, I must say, Robin, you're right. I actually worked for the same company as you did, with this blue bird.
Yes.
You remember that? So still, what we see today in the market is, yes, the German market might be more educated towards risk, and in comparison to the European and other countries, the German customer is more risk-driven still yet. He gets the product sold. He's not waking up in the morning saying, "Oh, this is today. That's the day for accident insurance." So you still need to push product into the market. That's what we still see, and sometimes it's event-driven. As now the period is car insurance is event-driven at the moment. So we see a lot of requests from customers coming into insurance themes. But still yet, the customer needs a kind of incentive to come towards the insurer.
Well, I've been told by people who are longer in the industry than I am that the only single time that people were queuing up to buy an insurance was after unification in Germany, when the people from Eastern Germany suddenly needed Western-style car insurances because they were obligatory. And people don't necessarily, or typically don't like to think about bad things which could happen to them, because it makes you feel queasy in the stomach. So you tend to avoid thinking about this stuff. And if you avoid thinking about this stuff, a huge motivator for buying insurance is gone, because frankly speaking, a lot of insurance is bought because people are afraid of some risk and want to insure against it, feel safer about it. So without some kind of, say, push or induced push, people tend to be underinsured, which is unfortunate for them and also for us as business. So yes, there is certainly an element of push, but my perception is that with the more modern methods of marketing and approaching the customers, it's possible to get customers, to nudge them in a sense, to get them thinking more about what their risks are, what they might be afraid of, what their hopes are, and by that induce them to think more about insurance than used to be the case. Which is good, because the time when you met your insurance agent at your local club event and he asked you how you were insured and then would make an appointment at your home, those times are mostly over, except for a certain subsegment of the market and the customers.
Thank you. Yes, I believe I'll bring a bit of a North American perspective. Canada, the US, insurance definitely is still pushed. We start to talk about the day when insurance will be bought and not sold, but we're definitely not there yet. In the evenings on television, most of the ads are from car insurance companies. So it seems it keeps rotating from Geico, State Farm, Allstate, and then between them there are, you know, drug and medication related advertising. But Geico spends over $1.2 billion a year advertising. So we're still in this place where we are pushing the insurance value proposition. I think generally people don't, you know, we're not a trusted industry. Spiro had an interesting viewpoint on this when he said perhaps more trusted than banks. I think we're...
And politicians. There was a study that came out recently.
Yes.
We are not the most unpopular around, that politicians are even more unpopular than us.
There we go.
We're only second us.
Second, yeah. So, but I think, you know, it's because the experience to date, you know, has not been good. The products were not designed really to offer necessarily the best protection, and as a result, we've had, you know, a situation where, you know, there isn't this trust factor. But as insurers look to different ways to engage, and it's a big conversation in Insurtech, we like to have a different value proposition, we like to protect assets, we like to engage and look for ways to engage with people. I think that the perception of what an insurer is, what an insurer can be, will change, and eventually we will have people that will want the other that will seek insurance or want it. The other thing that we think is going to happen is that, you know, you're just going to be covered. So today, if you want insurance, you have to go to an insurance company or broker, and then, you know, you express your needs and then you buy insurance. But what if you were just covered? What if you did an experience, you know, you bought a car and it was just there? What if you bought a home and it was just there? You took a trip and you were worry-free. When we look at the integration of platforms, when we look at, you know, the entire ecosystems that are developing, I think that for the first time, you know, we have the potential of seeing a shift where insurance is bought and not sold. But today, definitely we're still in the push mode.
Well, the title of the panel implies a little bit that is actually a goal we should go to, the insurer that emerges from pushing the product into the market to a life manager that supports the customer. There are voices in the industry that say that is not even a goal we should actually achieve. Do you think we should become a life manager and become a daily part of the daily life of our customers, or is it something we should not do, we should stay in the back? What do you guys think? Alexander, maybe first.
Yeah, and I would first actually, in the context of this, answer to one remark of you, Philip, because I don't think that people do not trust us in general. I actually think a lot of people don't trust insurance agents in general, but they trust the one who advises them. So, as an industry, people do trust us. Insurance is a prepaid product, essentially. You don't even know whether you will need it and whether you will get the thing you've paid for. So there's a ton of trust which people place in the industry. And
why is our public image then so bad?
I think there are two reasons for that. One is, and I could ask around in this room, who is proud to work for an insurance? I would raise my hand as well, but most people who do would not. And that's different from the car industry, say. If you ask someone at BMW who was building the best cars, he will say BMW. And he knows that those cars are not perfect, as our products are not perfect, certainly. But that doesn't make us bad. Now, with regard to being part of the life of our customers, we are part of the life of our customers. We are an important part. A lot of things you do in your life would not be possible without an insurance. Who would buy a house with a mortgage on it if he couldn't insure it against fire? Probably no one. Who would drive his car with 200 on the motorway without knowing he was insured? No one. Yes, there is more we can do, and I think we have the right to play in this area. And if we have the right, and if we want to conserve, which I believe is important, our interface to the customer, then yes, we should become even closer to the life of our customers.
I mean, I think nobody argues that the functionality of an insurance is something necessary for a capitalist society or for society in general. But the big question is, are insurers as a company, the providers, a part of the life of the customer? Because when I recall, a lot of incumbents are actually doing a call once a year, and that's other companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook are constantly in our faces. In a positive way. So my question to you guys, maybe Philip, would be: do you think we as an industry could become closer, or should we just focus on our functionality as a risk carrier?
I think we're at an interesting time to. So yes, I believe that we can move in this direction, and I've experienced it on a few occasions. A few years ago, I was at a conference, and you know, insurance is often compared to banking. For obvious reasons, one of the pillars of financial services, and we interact with our banks and our mobile app for our banks on a daily basis, perhaps, right? We check balance, we make transactions, we send money to someone, etc. And you know, with insurance, with traditional products anyways, we basically have one touch point per year where we receive the renewal of our annual policy, maybe it's 6 months, and then we look at it. Maybe we don't even look at it, we put it away, and we pay the bill. And one CIO of an insurance company in this discussion was saying, well, I don't really want to talk to my customers more than once a year because it's an opportunity for them to go away. So that was the perspective, which I thought was interesting.
Did you scream then loudly and like shake?
No, I was very polite. But what I've seen is, a few years ago, I lived in New Zealand for a few years, working with an insurer there, and there was a mobile app from this insurer. And what I saw, I noticed there for the first time that the focus of the advertising. So I talked earlier about, you know, the advertising that we see on television in North America for insurance is all about low price and about claim service. So either you differentiate on low price or you differentiate on claim service. This insurer that I was working with that had this mobile app really tried to become part of your life and be a little bit this 360, maybe not 360 because it was just about the car and the home, but basically using time to send you nudges and remind you of certain things that you should do. So if we look at the car as an example, and they set up an ecosystem, and I thought it was brilliant. So, you know, in the spring, well, New Zealand doesn't have the winter that we have, but, you know, in the spring and fall, you know, they would send you nudges to basically service the vehicle.
But is that the radical shift from actually, from the yearly call we have in general?
Well, I think it was different because they try, and even the advertising on television was, they tried to really show you that we are here to protect this car of yours, right? So shifting from pay us in advance, and I agree about, you know, we prepay, but they really tried to position themselves, and they did the same thing for the house and for the business, that we are here to help you protect your asset. And because they have the signals, and now with all of the Insurtechs that we're seeing here and the startups and the IoT and all of the data that's available, we can now start doing this as an industry because we can position ourselves as the people that not just manage the life, but these very important assets. We know what's going on in your house, potentially. We know what's going on with your car, so why not proactively do this and say, hey, you should put your winter tires on. You should check your smoke alarm. And I think that this is part of becoming that 360-degree life manager, and this is part of shifting really what the relationship is between the insurer and the customer, and it's a great time to be able to do that.
Stephen, you grabbed the mic and you...
Yeah, I'm eager to comment because what he just explained is it's very ambitious to be in the center of the customer's thoughts, being the 360-degree life manager. That's very ambitious. But the key to the customer is making insurance convenient for him, making it a convenient part of his life that is easy to handle, not to think about it, to put risks to a carrier and then have peace of mind. And the more convenient the product handling is, the easier it is to become part of the life of the customer and extend the communication between the insurer, the salesperson and the client beyond once a year. So it's from our perspective and from my perspective is about making it easy for the client to communicate and take part into the interaction between himself and the insurer.
Let's talk use cases. Mary, do you have use cases in mind where insurers, out of your experience, also international experience, but also experience now at ISMO, do you have some other use cases in mind besides the mobility one?
Yes, definitely. You know, we're living at times where for different insurance companies it's easier and easier to lose customers. It's so hard to keep them because everybody is advertising. Everybody is, you know, dropping their prices and so on and so forth. So what is the value that you provide in order to keep this customer? And that will be the key in the future also. And it's not just the insurance product, because people and even young people, they don't want to be sold the insurance product. So what is the alternative value here? So if I have all these assets and stuff to bear in mind, so insurance company could perfectly be the helper for me, even if I have this water pipe breaking in my house, you know, what do I do? Where do I go? But if I know that, you know, I can always rely on my insurance company based on any questions that I have with, you know, my broken assets or any other of that stuff, you know, if insurance company could assist me in that, that would be definitely a huge value. And also what we have experienced from our business, that, you know, creating an insurance app or an insurance online platform, that's not enough. Everybody can do that. So
what's the secret sauce?
So in our business, I think, you know, today the secret sauce is that we are not so much focused on developing a great app or a website for the end user, but we figured out that there's a way more massive problem from the insurance company side, that they're struggling with putting new products and online and doing it fast. So we are right now more focusing on providing value for the insurance companies in order for them to become digitally advanced and not to build anything up by themselves, but they do what they do best and we do what we do best, which is creating the technology.
All right, you mentioned product. I think it's really interesting, the consequence of the product. My next question goes to Alexander, but maybe first to the audience. You all probably have insurances, or you will probably be here. From how easy, understandable was or is the insurance product, all the clauses? 1 being piece of cake and 10 being I need to be an actuary for that. Do I hear some numbers? 0 would be like very piece of cake, okay. And I did this in some other place and they all were like 1 or 1.5. And my question to Alexander is, do we need to change also the insurance products to more convenience and better understandable?
I think convenience is table stakes. And we as the incumbents still have our fights with meeting these table stakes. I fully admit to that. But the true differentiator, and I very much believe in that, is emotional relevance. Because in the end, insurance is a highly emotional product at its core. And as long as we hide behind nerdy formulas, and I actually am a certified actor myself, so I can do this nerdy stuff. As long as we hide behind these nerdy formulas, we are not meeting the emotional needs of our customers. In times past, it was our agents, our salespeople who did the translation. Essentially, the emotional point of trust for the customer was not the insurance that much, it was the agent. Now we are entering into the digital age where agents become less relevant, at least for certain segments of the population. And there we need to see how can we make things emotionally relevant via digital channels. So if you ask, well, it needs to be sufficiently easy to understand that people can emotionally relate to it. But does it need to be totally easy to understand? I doubt that. A car, at least in its technological form, is quite complex. People buy it and like it.
If a pig is, when you run over a pig, then it's insured. But if the pig has too much hair because it's a different breed, then it's not insured. Do we really want to confront customers with that and not just like it's insured? If you have an accident, it's insured.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. As much as we can simplify that, we should. And where we can't simplify for good reasons of adverse selection or whatever, we need to think about how to make it much more understandable and logical from the point of view of the consumer. Or think about solutions surrounding it, going into services. I mean, we do not have to insure everything against the risk taking place. At times it can be good enough to help people prevent the damage in the first place. So education, prevention services and so on are potentially all part of the package. And again, that can make us much more emotionally relevant for the customer than before. There's no perfection in there, sure.
What does the rest think about the future of the insurance product, especially thinking about becoming a life manager?
We're launching, or we've launched a few products already. We have a chief underwriting officer on our staff who is responsible for designing the forms. So for example, we've got a home share product, a ride share product, and a cyber product for SMEs. This is a big area of focus for us in the digital world. So we've tried to challenge ourselves to raise the bar in that level. I agree with you. It's not perfect, but we've developed forms. Our forms are publicly available online, of course, in the US. But if you read our home share, it's a fairly comprehensive product, but with no traditional insurance jargon, right? I've been in underwriting in the past, I knew the language and so forth, the exclusion lists were bigger than the coverage lists, etc. But, so we've tried. So I think there is an honest movement towards that. It is difficult because you still have to actuarially, define the product and price it accordingly. But so far, decent results. Even the cyber product is, can be read, the entire policy document can be read in 8 minutes, I believe. And again, it's a comprehensive product, but defining the coverages, defining the form in a way that today's buyer, today's digital purchaser of insurance will be able to understand, and it goes back to trust. Okay, I feel like, this is not a puzzle. I don't feel like I have to determine if the pig has a little bit of hair or a lot of hair to be covered. That, okay, if I have this type of event, I know that I'm covered. It's a challenge to align that with the actuarial work, but I think we're getting there. It's still early days, but it's a must for the direction of these new products. Your other digital products that you buy, they're easy to understand. They don't have the same financial implications, but they're easy to understand. We want to bring that experience to insurance.
But when our products are easy to understand, doesn't that actually mean that insurance products will become commodities? Because they're easy to compare, for example?
The money streams behind an insurance, at its core, the true product, that's money based on some information that is, in a sense, commodity. Where you can differentiate is if you can assess risks better than others based on some specific data, proprietary analytics and stuff like that. But otherwise it is already commodity. The point is, whenever, and it doesn't matter which industry, whenever you want to be out of commodity, you need to create differentiation factors. And the true differentiation is at the customer interface. Because that's where you can do a lot of different stuff in a slightly different way. So differentiation doesn't happen in the product, at least not that much, or it's very, very difficult to do. It's like one high-frequency trader being better than another. Insurance differentiates at the point where the customer experiences the interaction, one way or the other. And I would add to that, it's about the emotion he feels. If he feels good, for whatever reason, then this is a differentiating factor. And that's why I'm so, and coming from physics it might sound strange, but that's why I'm so hard on this emotional stuff, because I believe that's the true differentiator.
So the key is brand. What do you the rest think about that?
Well, to answer that, I'm not a big believer in that the brand is the only differentiator. I'm also a big believer in, that is what I earlier said, it's the convenience at the point of the event where there are claims that happen, and I agree with you. Not so much that it's very emotional to file a claim, but it's at least a less impact on you as a personality, that it's easy to handle the claim. And I buy into a little bit into your emotion part. But mostly we see it that it needs to be easy and understandable and transparent for the customer to see what actually is happening at the moment. The current problem we have in the market is that the customer somehow is disconnected to our actual service. He doesn't really understand what we do. The question is, does he need to understand that? We think a little bit, so at least he is on top of the process and knows what's happening next. It's not so much about the details, he doesn't need to know the calculation behind it. What matters to me at the point where I have to file a claim is that somebody handles my issue. And I want it to be handled professionally, efficient and fast.
So you feel better.
So you feel better, and I agree to that.
Okay, agreement at last, but don't we have a, even though I like the conflict a little bit, don't we have big elephants in the room when it comes to providing convenient services to the customer, winning the hearts and minds and home screens? And that are the tech giants that are already there in a large portion of the life of the consumers. So what do you think, do we as an industry have any chance actually to become the trusted companion, to become the 360 risk life manager of our customers, or has this ship sailed, or what should we actually do? What do you think?
I think there's definitely a great room for insurance companies to grow, to become more a life manager of the people. Because, you know, the first thing that the insurance companies have to re-establish is the trust of the people, that people don't feel that I signed up for something that is 30 pages long and I don't understand anything, so I don't know if I will even get something when something happens, but you know, this is a massive trust issue that people have right now. And the second point is where the actual truth comes out. You know, it's very easy to sell insurance today. We have all these online and app channels and so on and so forth, but the truth comes out when there's the day when the claim happens and what happens there and how am I being served, how am I being taken care of, and even, you know, if it's not an insurance case, you know, if somebody tells me that, hey, you know, we cannot, this is not an insurance case, this is not covered, but you know, you could go and repair your thing, you know, in 500 meters from you. So there is definitely room for insurance companies to grow over there and to assist and add this value with their knowledge and with their assistance to people's everyday lives. Because, you know, I'm not expecting to get this service from, for example, the electronic shop that sold me my mobile phone when it's broken. Nobody's going to help me from there, or the bike store who sold me this, you know, bicycle. So I would expect to have this service from my insurance provider.
So we have a lot of innovators in the audience that work the daily life in the insurance and the insurers and carriers of today. What kind of tips can you give them? What could they do tomorrow, and what could they do this year or in the next 12 months to bring the idea, what all you just talked about become a companion, to provide service that he doesn't get somewhere else, or maybe a little new product or a more emotional brand, or the geek version of it. What can the people do, and do you have tips and tricks you can share maybe?
I can give the advice, and this is, I think, the idea also for the future of our industry is going to collaboration. It is, our life today is too complex that every business is going to deal with it itself. I very much believe that we have a future as an industry when we go into collaboration with service companies, in collaboration with customer servicing companies or customer servicing Insurtechs, and that we ourselves interact with each other in terms of product and process. There's no need that every individual insurance company does a climb fading the right way and the other one does it the left way and the next one is doing it over 360 degrees. We should use common practice, to use economies of scale and make life for the customer as easy as possible. And I think there's a lot is coming out of future collaborations if we connect to each other. I mean, networking, what we do today, should finally result in a better product, a better service, and a better catering of customer needs. This is what I strongly believe in. It's about working together than except for working alone. There's no future in working alone.
You all may clap now.
Well, as an incumbent discussing a lot with startups and the startups coming to me with ideas, what I'm looking for and what I can give as words of advice is, first of all, make it very clear how what you have is going to change the life and the emotions of the consumer. Second, make it easy to try out. Whatever you do, it's not necessarily a fit for any incumbent. For some it will fit better, for some it will fit worse. And the easier it is to set up something, if I can set up a test field with 100 cases within a couple of days at a low cost, I will just do it. If I first need a 3 months project and have 10 actuaries look through the projects and legal and whomever, probably not. So make it simple. Actually towards us as customers, as we want to do it to our customers.
So what you're saying is when you get an offer, or when service providers or Insurtechs offer you a service, you wish not to have like the gigantic, let's change the world together in the next 5 years price tag, but you would have different packages and a pilot package where you can say, okay, this is like this doesn't finance you the next year, but maybe this could be the entry point and let's try this together out.
Yeah, I definitely believe in iterative development. Okay, that's part of my role at Zurich anyway, to push that, so it's not surprising, but test and learn.
And give different price tags for different work packages for you, okay.
I just want to also speak to the question that you had. You asked about, you know, the big tech giants and what does it mean with regards to the insurer being the 360-degree life manager. One of the things we're seeing, I mean, the industry is not going away. You know, we have new channels, new entrants, platforms, and ecosystems are very popular. What the insurance companies, you know, from my experience and my perspective, need to answer is, you know, where do they want to be? So the premiums aren't going away, the risk is not going away, but do you want to be relevant or do you want to be present? And I think that's what you need to choose, and being present, being, you know, we talked about the brand earlier, how important that is, or are you powering, you know, some new brand, some new company that is, you know, the face of what the consumer is buying. So you can, you know, it's important to be relevant in the transaction. You don't necessarily need to be present. Mobility is a huge industry where, you know, that might change. There's a lot of indications that it will change, not overnight, but so as you do this, going back to the advice, is as we look at the Brave New World, is it's good to put aside all of our preconceived conventions and notions of how we've done it for 100 years and look at, okay, we're looking at new risks, looking at emerging risks, looking at new economy, new channels. How do we reinvent ourselves? Because that's how the startups are doing it. They're coming up with the idea from the ground up. They're not encumbered by 100 years of thinking. Now, we must not give away what insurance is about, but we can start from scratch and think from scratch with the view of where we want to be. Do we want to be present? Do we want to be relevant? And what do we do as a result?
We now have some tips for the innovators in companies, but we also have a lot of startup founders here and people working at startups, and we have some successful founders and founders on stage. Do you maybe share also concerning the idea where the insurance industry is heading in general? What are there like the do's and don'ts in providing, generating or setting up a successful startup in coming so far as you guys have come? And only all the secrets, you know, the stuff they can, you know?
I think when you're an Insurtech startup, then, you know, it's very unlikely that you can go big without a great partner, without a great insurance company behind you. And, you know, finding the right ones will take a lot of time. which means that some of them just want to hear out your ideas, and they're not being like very serious with you. So you need to be like very careful picking up those right startups. These right insurance companies. And to these companies, you know, you really have to solve a real problem for them. The fact that you're saying that, oh, I have this new way to sell your products, you know, this new platform or new application, that's not enough anymore, because insurance companies, they have way larger problems today when creating new products. You know, they could create a product on a paper, but you know, how to make it go online and exchange data, it's a completely different science, and you need to solve that problem for them. And this is also what we learned, that actually Alexander was totally right. You need to make it super easy for the insurance companies to start a new project with you. Also, we had to build up the whole back office system, which only requires from the insurance company the terms and conditions and the pricing, and the rest we will do ourselves. And this is how it works, and that was our secret. So you have to provide massive value to those partners if you want to become successful with insurance partners.
Yeah, well, let me continue. And you've been talking about the secrets. I mean, I don't know whether it's a secret, but guys really don't underestimate the factor time. Timing is really relevant. Timing in perspective of when you start your startup, are you years ahead of the market? It might be a problem because nobody's asking for you. The other thing is, will it take more time that the market will know about your product and about your services? So don't underestimate that, because it can be a long time span until you really make sales. So be careful with that. And as a third part, or third secret is, and you said this before, you need to make it absolutely simple and easy for your partner to work with you. If you're hesitating, if you see problems, if you see issues, you won't get to the market. You need to be open and adapt, agile, and on the fly to the demands of the market. If your team is unwilling to adapt to these changing factors, and they're changing every day, you really have an issue, because you can have the most perfect idea and the best product in the world. If you don't adapt to market needs and be agile in adapting to everything that's been told, then you really have a time problem, because you're running out of time.
And I think running out of time is not only a topic for startups and incumbents in the whole insurance industry, but actually also the panel at the exec Insurtech. We have run out of time. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, it would help us a lot if you could hit the subscribe button down there, and to make us also grow here on YouTube. Thank you very much.